And living things are generally, we can say, it is made of non-living things, right? And these living things, for their uh, maintenance of growth and their sustenance, they need different types of chemical compounds, which is known by the name biomolecules. Okay, so biomolecules are very essential for the growth and maintenance of the life. That is what we can say. And the branch of chemistry, it's a branch of science that deals with the chemical composition and structure of the biomolecules and uh, their various chemical reactions taking place. So that branch of chemistry is what we call as biochemistry. So there is a branch of chemistry that deals with the biomolecules and the various type of chemical reactions. And the chemical reactions that are taking place within the living system, what are the chemical reactions known as? It is known by the name biochemical reactions. It is known by the name biochemical reactions. Okay. And these biomolecules, they will interact with each other, and that helps in the life processes. For the normal life process, these biomolecules will interact with each other, and they will have their own different characteristics and properties. Okay, and as a result, they will help in the life process. And we have different types of biomolecules. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we are having different types of biomolecules. Okay, there is biomolecules will be carbohydrates, proteins, okay, polysaccharides, lipids, nucleic acids, DNA as well as RNA. All these will form the biomolecules, and they will perform different activities. Okay, and biomolecules will be normally, they are macromolecules. Biomolecules are normally macromolecules, and they are generally polymers as well. They are macromolecular compounds and polymers. For example, if you're taking starch or cellulose, they are made of glucose molecules. Okay, so likewise, these biomolecules are also mostly, they are polymer compounds. And if you're taking these biomolecules, you can see like here, uh, some of the biomolecules will be small, but most of them will be large sized. Okay, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, or nucleic acids, all these are large sized. Whereas if you're taking the sugar or nucleotides, these minerals, all these will be of smaller size. Okay, so this is about the chemicals present in the living organisms are known as biomolecules, and the different biomolecules, compounds, and the ions present in a cellular are known as cellular pool. And the mainstay or the backbone of every biomolecule is an organic compound. So we know that it is a biomolecule will have the backbone as the carbon. Okay, and you can have the composition of the various compounds present as well. So here you can see that carbon and oxygen, so forms most part of the living matter. Okay, so if you are talking about the composition, then we discussed about the different types of biomolecules like proteins. Okay, and they help in the structure and function of the cell. DNA, RNA, we call it as nucleic acids. They are helpful in the protein synthesis and the heredity of a living thing. And polysaccharides, okay, polysaccharides are nothing but the carbohydrates. They form storage of the form of energy, lipids, and fatty acids they form the storage of energy uh, within the cell. Okay, so these are the various structures. So first we are going to first discuss about the carbohydrate, the biomolecule carbohydrates. And these carbohydrates are primarily produced by plants. Okay, and it is one of the largest, which is one of the largest naturally occurring organic compound, carbohydrates. And can you give me some example of a carbohydrate? The structure, one structure is given to
Glucose,
you. This is
Glucose,
glucose.
glucose,
Okay,
sucrose,
fructose,
glucose,
salt,
sucrose, lactose,
cellulose,
cellulose, starch, all these form
glyceraldehyde.
the carbohydrates. Okay, okay, all this will form these carbohydrates, and they normally earlier these carbohydrates were considered as the hydrates of carbon. What do you mean by hydrate? What do you mean by hydrate? The compound having
hydrogen
With
attached.
hydrogen.
not hydrogen. It is not hydrogen. Compound having water molecules present along with a particular element. For example, if I am talking about glucose, uh, what is the molecular formula of glucose?
C6,
C6H12O6.
C6H12O6.
O6, and you can write it as C6H2O 6 times. Am I right? Am I right or not?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So I can call it as a
Yes, sir.
hydrate. I can call it as a hydrate of carbon. So earlier they believed like that. Compounds, carbohydrates were considered as hydrates of carbon. They were considered as hydrates of carbon. So most of the compounds will fit into this molecular formula. Okay, but we are taking another inorganic organic molecule, but it is not a carbohydrate, acetic acid, CH3 COOH, or we can write it as C2H4O2. And it is not a carbohydrate, but you can represent it as a hydrate of carbon, C2H2O2 times. All right, H2O2 times. But it is not a carbohydrate. It is not a carbohydrate. Similarly, if you are talking about ribose, C5 ribose, any of the biology students, ribose. Can you give me the molecular formula of ribose? Anybody? The C5H10O4. So this is a carbohydrate. Ribose is a carbohydrate, but we cannot represent it using the general formula CnH2, or the carbohydrates earlier they generally represent CnH2O something else. X, let it be. Okay. So likewise, but here you cannot represent the C5H10 of by this general formula. So ribose, even though it is a carbohydrate, it cannot be considered using this general formula. So according to the modern view, they have analyzed different carbohydrates, and they found that they will have number of OH groups. So we can say carbohydrates will be polyhydroxy compounds. Polyhydroxy compounds. When they analyze the structure of the carbohydrates, most of the carbohydrates, they will be having different number of hydroxy groups. So they will call it as a polyhydroxy compounds. Okay, and they will have aldehyde group or ketonic group as the principal functional group. So we said that, and they will have uh, asymmetric carbon. Can you tell me what is asymmetric carbon? You might have studied in the first chapter.
Sir, no, the
Unsymmetric.
double bond Unsymmetrical double bonds.
Unsymmetrical double bond. Have you studied about this optical activity in the first chapter, the organic chapter, first chapter?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Optical.
sir.
What is the?
Chiral, hi, Chiral.
They have line
Yeah,
of symmetry. They have line of
yeah.
symmetry.
Okay. So, what is the necessary condition for a organic
Chiral
compound to?
carbon.
There should be presence of chiral carbon. And how will you identify chiral carbon?
4 different substituents.
A carbon which is linked with the 4 different substituents, that is what we call as a chiral carbon. And such carbon will be called as an asymmetric carbon. And whenever there is a presence of asymmetric carbon, that compound will be normally optically active. That compound will be optically active. So, can you tell me what is optical activity?
They show some deviation.
Not deviation. Their ability to rotate the plane of a polarized light. If it is rotating towards right, we call it as dextro-rotatory. And if it is rotating the plane of the polarized light towards left, we call it as levo-rotatory. For recalling things, I will take a simple example. I'll generally using a diagram. I'll show. Let this be a beam of light or a photon of light, which will have oscillations in the all possible directions. Okay. Now, when it is passed through certain compounds like nickel prism, so let me say nickel prism, which is nothing but a compound of calcium carbonate. Okay, a prism. You will have a light which will have oscillation limited to only one plane. The oscillations in all other plane will be cut off. So such light is known as a polarized light. It is polarized light. What is the first one? It is unpolarized. And this polarized light, when it is passed through certain organic compounds, which shows the ability, which shows optical activity. So here having a sample of organic compound. When this light is passed through this one, you can see that these optically active compounds will rotate the plane of the polarized light. So this was the initial plane of the polarized light. Now it can be rotated in this way towards right through an angle, let it be theta. So it is rotating in the clockwise direction. So if it is capable of rotating the plane of the polarized light, then we call it as optically active compound, and we call it as dextro-rotatory. We call it as dextro-rotatory. D. Or we'll let use a small letter D to represent dextro, or plus symbol will be used. Plus symbol. Similarly, some of the compounds will be rotating the plane of the polarized light towards left in the anti-clockwise direction. Let it be this direction through an angle theta. So we call it as levo-rotatory. Levo-rotatory, and will be represented using L or minus sign. And the ability of an organic compound to rotate the plane of the polarized light, that property is known as optical activity, and such compounds will be known as optically active compounds. And for a compound to show optical activity, they should be having asymmetric carbon, or they should have chiral carbon. That means a carbon should be there which is linked with 4 different groups. Then it is that organic compound will be optically active. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the ability of an organic compound to rotate the plane of the polarized light, if it is rotating towards right, we call it as dextro, and if it is rotating towards the left, we call it as levo. And the angle through which they rotate the plane of the polarized light, that is characteristic for a particular compound, and this angle theta will be known by the name specific rotation. That it is specific rotation. Theta will be nothing but It is known as the specific rotation, and it will be characteristic for different compounds. And if isomer, if we are talking about optical isomers, they will having same everything, but they will differ in the optical rotation. One will be dextro-rotatory and the other will be levo-rotatory. That is the only difference. They will differ in the optical rotation. In all other aspects, they will be same. So that is the characteristic of optical isomers. Okay. Now we'll come back to biomolecules. So as per the modern analysis, they found that it will be a polyhydroxy compound. They will have an aldehydic or a ketonic group, and that compound will be optically active generally. Okay. So now they have modified the definition for carbohydrates, and they defined carbohydrates are optically active. It is nothing but optically active uh, polyhydroxy aldehydes or ketones are generally known as carbohydrates. Okay, and those compounds which will be capable of producing such optically active polyhydroxy aldehydes and ketones will also be generally called as carbohydrates. Either they themselves should have a polyhydroxy aldehydic or ketonic group, and it should be optically active, or when such some compounds, when they are hydrolyzed, if they are capable of giving such compounds, then they will be called as carbohydrates. As I told you, starch, cellulose, all this will be considered under this category. Okay. Now, based on the taste of the carbohydrate, they can be classified as sugars and non-sugars. Sugars and non-sugars based on this taste. If they have a sweet taste, they will be called by the name sugars, and if they don't have the sweet taste, they will be non-sugars. And carbohydrates will also be called as saccharides. Carbohydrates will also be called by the name saccharides. Another name for carbohydrate, it is known by the saccharides, because saccharon, which is a Greek word. Saccharon is a Greek word which means sugar. So from that we have this name saccharides for the carbohydrates. And on the basis of their behavior on hydrolysis, carbohydrates are broadly classified into three categories. In a broad sense, carbohydrates can be classified into three categories. They can be called as monosaccharide, or it can be called as oligosaccharide, and it is also another type is polysaccharide. So on their behavior on hydrolysis, saccharides or carbohydrates, they will be three types: monosaccharides, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides. Okay, and if a carbohydrate cannot be hydrolyzed into simpler molecules, if they cannot be hydrolyzed into further into simpler units, then that carbohydrate is known as monosaccharide. For example, glucose, fructose, all these are examples of monosaccharide, which we cannot hydrolyze them in further to give a simpler unit. So such groups will be called as monosaccharides. Okay, example, glucose, fructose, because on hydrolysis they will not be giving simpler units. So that is why we call it as monosaccharide. And oligosaccharides are nothing but on hydrolysis, if they give 2 to 10 monosaccharide units. If they are giving 2 to 10 monosaccharide units on hydrolysis, we call it as oligosaccharide. And oligosaccharides can also be disaccharide, trisaccharide, tetrasaccharide based on the number of monosaccharide units. Are you getting?
Yes, sir.
If we are hydrolyzing a carbohydrate and if it is giving 2 units of monosaccharide, then it can be called by the name disaccharide. And if it is giving 3 monosaccharide units on hydrolysis, it will be called as a trisaccharide. And if it is giving 4 units, it can be a tetra, penta, likewise it will go. And generally, we call all these categories as oligosaccharides. So if you are talking about a disaccharide, you can say sucrose is a very good, lactose, sucrose. For disaccharides, you can take it as sucrose, which is made of glucose and fructose. Maltose is a disaccharide, and I can say lactose is a disaccharide. So all these are disaccharides, trisaccharides, and that one. And if they have large number of monosaccharide units, if they give large number of monosaccharide units on hydrolysis, then they will be called by the name the polysaccharides. Like example, starch, cellulose, all these are examples of polysaccharides. It will have thousands of monosaccharide units. Starch and cellulose, they are made of glucose. It's a polymer. Okay, starch, cellulose, glycogen, which is the carbohydrate stored within the cells within the body, that is glycogen. So all these are examples of polysaccharides. Sure. Sugars and non-sugars in a simple sense, and in a sequence or in a broader sense, we can say monosaccharide, oligosaccharide, and polysaccharide. And carbohydrates can also be either reducing or it can be non-reducing. Carbohydrates can be reducing sugar. It can be a reducing sugar, or it can be a non-reducing sugar. If it reduces, if a sugar is capable of reducing tolerance reagent, tolerance reagent is nothing but a chemical reagent which is known which is ammonia called silver nitrate, or filling solution. Is a mixture of copper sulfate and sodium potassium tartrate. Okay, so these, if they are capable of reducing this tolerance reagent and filling solution, all these are mild oxidizing agents that you will study. Have you already studied this one, tolerance reagent and filling solution?
No, sir.
No, that you will study in the aldehydes and ketones, where they will be acting as mild oxidizing agents. So what will happen for oxidizing agents? What will happen for oxidizing agents? They will undergo reduction. So if a sugar is capable of reducing a tolerance reagent or a filling solution, then we call it as a reducing sugar. And if a sugar is not capable of reducing tolerance reagent or filling solution, then we will call it as a non-reducing sugar. Okay, and it will be reducing if they have free aldehyde or ketonic group. And if the aldehydic or ketonic group is bonded, then it will be non-reducing. Chemically, and we are talking in chemical terms, if they have aldehyde or ketonic group which is free, then it will be a reducing, And if it is bonded with something else, it will be non-reducing. That will see later how by something is acting as a reducing and by something is acting as non-reducing. Okay, understood this much about the
Yes, sir.
carbohydrate.
Yes, sir.
So carbohydrates most abundant source of energy, and it is precursor for many organic compounds present in different forms. Then storage, it is the storage form of energy. Okay, so carbohydrates can be monosaccharides, oligosaccharides, or polysaccharides based on their behavior with the hydrolysis. Okay, and oligosaccharides, disaccharides, trisaccharides, and the polysaccharides, they will be having large number of monosaccharides on hydrolysis, and normally they will be non-soluble, and they will be non-sugar. Okay, they will not be having any sugar taste. And now we'll discuss concentrate our discussion to monosaccharides. So what are monosaccharides?
Which do not hydrolyze.
Which cannot be hydrolyzed into further units.
Simpler carbohydrates.
Yeah. And based on the number of carbon atom and based on the functional group, whether aldehyde or ketone, they can be classified into different categories. Okay, and based on the number of carbon atom, it can be triose, tetrose, pentose, hexose, like this. Hex stands for
7,
hexa, six,
6,
and
Six.
pent 5. Okay, so generally depending upon the number of carbon atom, triose means triose, triose, triose means they will have 3 carbon atom. If it is tetrose, 4 carbon atom, 5 carbon atom is pentose, 6 carbon atom is hexose, likewise, heptose, likewise, it will go on. And based on the type of the functional group, they can be called as aldoses or ketoses. Aldotriose. What is the meaning? What should be the meaning?
aldehyde group is attached.
It should be a carbohydrate having 3 carbon atom, and it should be aldehydic group. Ketotriose, 3 carbon hydrocarbon with a ketonic group. Aldopentose, 5 carbon aldehydic hydrocarbon, no, not hydrocarbon, carbohydrate. And you can pentohexose, sorry, not pentohexose, ketopentose, which means that 5 carbon atom ketonic group. Okay, likewise, we can classify them based on the number of carbon atom as well as based on the functional group present. So this is the example where triose, glyceraldehyde is a triose where only 3 carbon atom, tetrose 4 carbon atom, pentose 5 carbon atom, hexose 6, likewise. Based on the functional group, they will be called as aldoses. If the aldehyde group is also aldose, so we call it as aldotriose. You can say glyceraldehyde is a aldotriose. Okay, glucose is a aldohexose. Fructose is a aldoketose. Ketohexose. Fructose. Likewise, we can classify them on the basis of the number of carbon atom as well as based on the functional group. Okay, so these things we discussed already. 2 to 9 or 2 to 10, depending upon the number of carbon atoms, they can be disaccharide, trisaccharides, etc. Disaccharides examples I gave you. Maltose, which is also known as malt sugar, which consists of 2 glucose units. Then you have lactose. Lactose is milk sugar, which is made up of 2 monosaccharide units, glucose and galactose, milk sugar. And you have cane sugar, which is sucrose, which is made of glucose and fructose, which is made of glucose and fructose. Okay. And polysaccharides, I told you, they can be more than number of monosaccharide units are there. They reduce the bulk. They helps to reduce the bulk making, and it mostly insoluble. Okay, and they are not in sweet. They helps in storage and structural components. Okay, then okay, so these are the different types of this one. So monosaccharides, as I told you, monosaccharides can be aldoses or ketoses. And here we are going to discuss about one of the important monosaccharide, which is glucose. Okay, here we will be discussing about glucose. Which is a monosaccharide. And glucose can also be called as grape sugar because it is found in grapes, so it can be called as grape sugar. Okay, and it is occurring in the free form as well as in the combined form, and we can say it is one of the most the organic compound which is present in large quantity, that is glucose, okay, in the nature. And glucose, as I told you, it can be occurring in the free form or it can be in the combined form. Normally, for a commercial scale, it is prepared by the hydrolysis of starch. Starch, as I told you, it was made of large number of glucose molecules. When starch is hydrolyzed in presence of an acid, okay, at the 393 Kelvin and 2 to 3 atmosphere pressure, it will give you n molecules of glucose. N glucose molecules will be obtained. Or sucrose, when you're talking about sucrose, which is nothing but cane sugar, when it is hydrolyzed in presence of an acid hydrolysis of cane sugar will give you 1 molecule of glucose and 1 molecule of fructose. And glucose is aldose, it is a ketose, fructose is a ketose. So this is the different method. Now, the most important thing that you have to keep in mind is about the structure determination or structural elucidation of glucose. Structural elucidation of glucose. And as I told you, is an aldose and glucose is an aldohexose. What is the meaning of an aldohexose?
Compound having aldehyde and 6 carbon.
6 carbon. And it is also known as dextrose. It is also known as dextrose. Okay. And it is one, as I told you, it is most abundant compound on the earth, and it has the structure based on the following. They identified the structure of glucose based on the following experiments, and they determined the molecular formula of glucose, and they found the molecular formula of glucose as C6H12O6. How will you find the molecular formula of the compound? Last year we have studied. How will you find the molecular formula of the compound?
Number of the atom into atomic mass.
Yeah. If you know the vapor density, if you know the percentage composition of various elements, you can easily calculate the molecular formula of the compound, or otherwise by spectroscopic methods we will be able to find the molecular formula of the compound, and they found that the molecular formula of the compound is C6H12O6, which means that it has 6 carbon, 12 hydrogen, and 6 oxygen. And the second thing is that when it is heated with the HI is a reducing agent. When heated with the HI, it gives normal hexane. It gives normal hexane, N-hexane. So I'll write the chemical reaction like this for our convenience. Glucose, when it is heated with the HI, it gives N-hexane. What is N-hexane? CH3, CH2, 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 CH3,
Straight line.
straight chain, carbon. And what does this chemical reaction indicate? It gives N-hexane on reaction with the HA. What does this chemical reaction indicate? It indicates that glucose consists of 6 carbon atoms linked in a straight chain. Linked in a straight chain. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this particular chemical reaction, so you have to they will not ask you directly to identify the structure of glucose. They will give write the chemical reaction when glucose reacts with the HI, when glucose reacts with some other reagent. So you will be asked to write the products. That is how they are asking the question. So you should be thorough with this chemical reaction. Okay. Now, or otherwise you can also write, instead of this one, you can write the chemical formula of glucose as well. Here, instead of glucose, you can write the chemical formula. You can write it as C6H12O6 on HI. It gives an hexane, which means that it will have 6 carbon atoms, which is linked in straight chain. Okay. Now the second, third one, when glucose reacts with compound hydroxylamine, NH2OH is known as hydroxylamine. This compound is hydroxylamine. Okay, when it reacts with hydroxylamine, it gives a compound known as oxime. It is a chemical compound known as oxime. And when they reacts with the hydrogen cyanide, when they reacts with HCN, it forms a compound known as cyanohydrin. And the formation of cyanohydrin and oxime, these are the chemical reactions given by aldehydes and ketones. Formation of oxime or cyanohydrin, these are characteristic chemical reactions of aldehydes and ketones or carbonyl compounds. Or generally, carbonyl compounds will react with hydroxylamine to give oxime, and they will react with the HCN, hydrogen cyanide, to form cyanohydrin. So, what does it indicate? These chemical reactions. What do these chemical reactions indicate?
presence of carboxyl.
Not carboxyl, carbonyl.
Carboxyl group.
Carboxyl, carbonyl group. Okay. It reacts with the hydroxylamine. It gives oxime, which is a characteristic reaction of aldehyde or a ketonic group. Glucose again reacts with HCN. It forms a cyanohydrin. Again, a characteristic reaction of this one. So these two reactions indicate the presence of indicates the presence of what?
Carbonyl group.
Carbonyl group. So what are carbonyl compounds?
C double bond.
Ketone.
C double compounds having this one. Okay. So I will explain this chemical reaction, oxime and this one. Normally aldehydes and ketones will give you. So we can represent this glucose like this. This is the easiest way of representing glucose. CHOH 4 times and CH2OH. This is glucose. Okay. Now, first when react with NH2OH, NH2OH, chemical reaction is like this. H2O will be removed, and it will lead to the formation of a compound like CH double bond NOH. Then here you have CHOH 4 times and CH2OH. And those compounds having carbon double bond NOH linkage, they will be known by the name oxines. This is known as oxide. Are you getting? Are you getting?
Sir, nitrogen
Yes, sir.
double bond OH.
Double bond N and single bond OH.
Sir, oxime means
Oxime is the name of this particular compound, general formula name of the compound. Compounds having uh, uh, carbon linked with nitrogen through a double bond, and nitrogen contains OH group. Or the compound when a carbonyl group combines with hydroxylamine, and that compound formed will be known by the name oxime. Only aldehydes and ketones can form oxines. And how do they form? The carbonyl group will react with NH2OH and they give us oxide. The compound produced when carbonyl group reacts with hydroxylamine, that is what we call as oxide. Understood?
yes, sir.
Yeah. Now I'll explain the cyanohydrin. I'll explain what is cyanohydrin. So in detail, you will study this formation of oximes and the cyanohydrins in the carbonyl aldehydes and ketones. Even then, for your academic purpose, I will explain. So here, as I told you, C double H double bond O, then CH2OH 4 times CH2OH. This is glucose. Then when it reacts with the HCN, what happens is that a compound is formed where the aldehyde group of this one, H will remain as such, then O will be converted into OH and a CN will be introduced on the carbon. So see what all things are taking place. Double bond is broken, O is converted into OH and CN is attached with this one, CN. And the remaining part is remaining the same, CHOH 4 times CH2OH. And this compound having OH group as well as cyanide group on the same carbon is known as cyanohydrin. So what are cyanohydrins? What are cyanohydrins?
Carbon having OHCN on the same carbon atom.
Compounds having carbon containing OH and CN on the same carbon that are known as cyanohydrin. And which compounds will give cyanohydrin? Only carbonyl compounds, aldehydes and ketones. When they react with HCN, they will form the cyanohydrin. Again, these reactions indicate the presence of the carbonyl group. So two characteristic reactions of carbonyl groups, so which indicates the presence of carbonyl group in glucose. Okay. Now, this is the third reaction. Then fourth one. Okay, is it time up? So what we do is we'll continue in the afternoon at 3:30. We'll continue. Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
3:30 we'll continue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.